if you're having problems, or even if you're not, if you don't want to have problems in the future, then I would say look into this carnivore way of eating. Because as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing to go back to.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, Nanci, it's an absolute pleasure to finally get to interview you. You've been a member of our community for quite some time now, and I always have been super excited to see you here. And so I think it's great that you share this. For you guys that don't know, Nanci's been a member of our Revero, formerly MeterX and now Revero community for, I guess, probably a couple of years, I think 2 years or something like that, if I'm not mistaken.
2.5 years, yeah.
2.5 years, right? Yeah. And just has an interesting background. Well, I'll just let you just kind of share your background a little bit. I think it's such an interesting thing that's going on. So go ahead if you don't mind doing that. Where are you? You're in New York, right? Remind me again.
New York, upstate New York. Yeah.
You got guns on your wall. Is that allowed?
Oh yeah, it is. We're a gun household. People don't come here.
Got it. Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about what's going on. Tell us your story, Nanci.
So let's see. I've been married for 43 years to a great guy, and pastor's wife for about 30. Registered nurse, retired. My husband's a registered nurse. Anyway, we've got 5 kids in the family and 9 grandchildren.
Wow, congratulations. That's awesome. I got 0 grandchildren. And I don't want any yet. I'm too young for that. I mean, my kids are too young. So hopefully in 10 years or so, maybe at the earliest. So good for you.
So anyway, let's see. I ate the standard American diet growing up. And I have always, from a teenager, I have always dieted. I got freaked out when I was 5'8" and 140, and I started Weight Watchers, and always been on a low fat, high carb diet. But they lasted about a month each, but I'd go back to eating sugars, very, very addicted to sugars, pastry, cakes, breads. It just did something to my brain, but I didn't know I was addicted. I just knew that I was totally out of control.
Yeah. So I'll interject. So 5'8", 140, by today's standards, that would be relatively even on the thin side, I think, from what we're seeing now. I mean, that, most people would be happy with that, and to think that was something that back in I don't know, when you were 14, how long ago? So, several years ago at least, that was considered a problem back then. And now most people are like, I got to be me, and I love myself, and I can be healthy at any size. So interesting. So yeah, when you go on a low fat diet, gosh, it's so hard to get. It's so hard to maintain that, because you're starving all the time, literally, or at least for a lot of people they are.
Right. And we ate well when I was a kid, because I was raised with my grandmother and father, and we always had, they were from the World War II era, and food was very, very important in the house. We always had lots of food, but it, through the years and then into my married years and such, it was more processed foods. Mm-hmm. Although we still had whole foods, it was, more processed foods through the years. And so I was addicted.
Yeah, that stuff creeps into the diet, doesn't it? Because it's so convenient. That was the whole thing, just sort of, instead of mom slaving over the stove all day, hey, let's make this quick hamburger helper stuff, or, and then it became microwave dinners, and now it's just, you feel a whole food bar, in a plastic wrap, and it's gotten more and more to that thing. And so part of it is, like I said, it's trying to make it convenient for everybody. And now that we have a greater percentage of women in the workforce not able to, be at home cooking the food, and it's not to say that's not I cook most of the food in my house. I mean, I'm a cook, so I'm doing that all the time. And so, I mean, somebody's got to cook the food one way or the other, or you end up eating all the processed kind of junk food, which which is what everybody's eating these days, which is kind of a shame. So you mentioned you were raised by your grandmother and your father,
Right.
and mom. Was your mom? What happened, mom?
Yeah, she just left.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So food was a comfort too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously there's problems when there's a breakup, and I grew up being happy when I was eating.
Mm-hmm.
So, which, I reflect on that now. I didn't know it back then. Anyway, but I tried diets through the years, and I also considered weight loss surgery, because the highest weight I was 312 pounds. And I lost my nursing career because of it, because my knees went out on me, and I already had cerebral palsy. So going into a nursing profession with cerebral palsy was challenging too, but I could do it. But when, after a while, my knees just, I was walking with 15-degree bend in my knees.
Yeah.
So you can imagine.
Let me just, cerebral palsy. I mean, all of us most of us are kind of aware of that. And so, if you just break down the root of the word, palsy is sort of a neurological issue. And then the cerebral part refers to our brain. And usually it's occurring through some sort of injury, whether it's often it's an anoxic brain injury, or a difficult childbirth, something like that. Are you aware of that? What happened with you? Yeah.
Right. I was born at 6-month preemie, and I went down to 2.5 pounds back in 1956.
Wow.
And so, of course, they almost lost me, but I made it. But I had cerebral palsy because of that.
Yeah.
I wasn't supposed to be walking when I hit 35. They said that I wouldn't be walking, but I've been defying so many obstacles for years. Yeah.
And then, 2.5 pounds, back in the 1950s is extraordinary. I mean, I don't know what percentage of survival rate of a premature incident that size. I would imagine it wasn't very high. So that's a miracle to start with.
Yes.
So, and you got 312 pounds. So you got me by 7. And my highest, I was 305, but of course I was a 6'5", strength athlete. So a little different sort of situation there. So your knees, so you've been off and on Weight Watchers your entire career. You said you could do it for a month, and then it would just be,
I couldn't stick to the diet. I couldn't stick to any diet.
So let's, and so because of your knees and the weight, you could no longer provide nursing care or do that. When did you retire from nursing? When did you stop doing nursing?
I think it was 2015, right? 2015 or 16. My husband's here supporting.
Hello, husband.
Good morning, Shawn.
Good morning.
So, I forgot the question.
So you stopped in 2015, 2016.
Yeah, right.
And it was just too much pain, or just too difficult to walk around.
It was just too difficult to negotiate, and typically I'd have to be close to beds or walls. My husband would have to walk me into the building, because when I'm in a free space, I couldn't negotiate without feeling like I was going to fall.
Both knees.
And both my knees were
out 15 degrees. It is something to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, were they valgus knees? Were you knock-kneed or bow-legged?
Knock-kneed. Knock-kneed. No, knock-kneed.
Yeah. Yeah, the knees are together and the feet stick out. That's a valgus deformity. That's pretty impressive. when I was doing orthopedics, I would take care of those not infrequently, and it's pretty impressive how much you can actually straighten those out pretty back to normal with a knee replacement, which is kind of cool. So 215, 216, you retire from nursing. Then what? Is it just stay at home and how do you?
I was staying home, but I heard about the keto diet, and I think it was on Facebook with Diet Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started investigating because I've always wanted to lose weight. And after 4 children, boy, the weight just packed on.
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't get it off. And so I investigated the keto diet and I started doing it. And Shawn, I lost weight like a rock. I mean, it came off like a rock. And the health benefits, my goodness, I had 2 weeks under the diet. I had no more joint pain.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I think I had this here. 2 weeks in the diet, no more joint pain.
And that was, Nanci, before I interrupt you, that was without any significant weight loss, correct? I mean,
no, that was.
Weeks, right?
I started losing weight. Like I would lose, say, 5 pounds and then 10 pounds and then 5 pounds. And I mean, it took maybe 6 months and I lost 70 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
In the first 2 weeks, you didn't lose that much.
But no, not in the first 2 weeks, but
I just want to share, like when I was prescribing ketogenic diets for my orthopedic patients, and I would see very similar within a couple of weeks. And new pain patients I literally had on the operating room schedule, and all I wanted to do was reduce weight for them so they'd be safer for surgery. And instead of that, they were like, I don't even need surgery anymore. And within a couple of weeks, without much weight loss, which I thought was just confirmed by what you're saying. Again, I just saw that all the time. So anyway, so you go on the keto diet, you drop 70 pounds, so now you go from 310 down to 240? Is that where you
well, I think I was down to 300 by that time, something like that. Okay. But I've forgotten, to tell you the truth. It's been a while since, and I didn't log any of that, but I just knew that I dropped. I had a 26 in size, and I went down to an 18, like quick. I was amazed, and the health benefits just kept going. Like 1 month on the diet, I had 3+ edema in my legs and ankles, and I had stasis ulcers because of it. I couldn't heal my ulcers unless I had surgical stockings on, and I would get terrible infections because of it. And but they healed up. 1 month on the diet, 3+ edema gone, and 2 months on the diet. I didn't have to wear the surgical stockings anymore. Also, the ulcers healed up. I didn't, and my poor husband, he didn't want me to start with the sores again on my, and he was so worried that I wasn't wearing my stockings anymore, but I just refused to wear them because there was no more edema. And I felt free, And
they're not comfortable on top of that. And it's kind of interesting. You see people when they get, really heavy, these hemostasis ulcers, and did you have any issues with hypertension, metabolic syndrome, diabetes, any of those things?
No, I've never had any hypertension at all. My labs are generally good. Well, the doctor wouldn't say that with my cholesterol, but my labs were good. I didn't have any problems with blood sugars, anything.
Yeah, but so even back then at 300 and plus pounds with stasis ulcers and obviously in pain, the labs look good. And so this is one of the concerns with just relying on labs for everything. If somebody were to look at you on paper, they'd say, not see you or not know your weight. They'd say, well, you're doing great, and there's nothing we need to do, which I think is a real problem. So you see the swelling go down. ulcers resolve, the pain goes away. That's just a few weeks, within a couple months. So then how did things go?
And then it took 2 years because I started keto when I was in 2016, I think it was. And it took 2 years for, I had a terrible fungal infection under my toenails. I don't even know how I got it, except I didn't know then, but it was the sugar, I'm sure. And anyway, that's totally resolved. My nails are beautiful. And I never thought I'd be able to say that.
That's really amazing. And what is it when you did the ketogenic diet back, 2016? What did it look like? I mean, were you eating whole foods, or how did that go?
Yeah, I was eating whole foods, but just like the stories that I hear with so many people, keto treats.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was doing a lot of that because I love sweets. And it was just really, I continue to be addicted terribly.
Right.
And, I didn't say that I even had self-control then, except that I was eating meat, I was eating fat, and then I had some vegetables, and I actually kept my carb count 20 or below for the most part. So,
you make a lot of fat bomb desserts with artificial sugars and creams and stuff like that on a keto diet, and there's a lot of companies out there that are selling the quote unquote keto products, which technically might meet the macro requirements, but they're still junk food,
Right.
So you do that for a couple of years, you get down to 2 something, I guess, and then so how did you get into this carnivore sort of situation?
How did I get into what?
Carnivore.
This
the
carnivore
carnivore
diet sort of situation. What made you prompt you to go there?
Okay, so it was all your fault. First of all, I stopped losing weight on keto.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. After the initial 70 pounds, I couldn't lose weight anymore. And I started going down lower and lower in my carbs, and it didn't do any good. So then I think it was, I was listening to Ken Berry and, YouTube. I was always on educating myself. And then I found you on the Joe Rogan show.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh my gosh, carnivore. And then you had in 2020, you had the Carnivore Challenge, the January challenge for the month. And I didn't do well. I think I lasted a couple of months, but in March, I signed up with MeatRx and, got to know you, got to know the coaches, got to know the community. And, I'm learning a lot. It was a struggle because my whole focus was just losing weight. I didn't care about anything else. And I didn't even appreciate the fact that I was feeling well. But then things started to turn around. The more I got educated about the benefits of carnivore, and the more I realized that health is really what's important.
Yeah, side effect is health.
Yeah, that's an important side effect, sure.
That's right. And so and then what was happening, see, I listened to you about exercise, and I remember what you said, that even if you did just one thing constantly, that it could change your life. And I was sitting in a chair at that point. It was during the pandemic. I wasn't having any activity. I was very debilitated and very discouraged, very depressed. But I heard what you said, and I started lifting weights. And then I started to do knee bends. And I started feeling good. 2 or 3 weeks into doing some simple exercises, I was feeling amazing. And my husband was still working at the time. And I dropped a control under and you probably remember this, but I dropped a control under the bed, and I don't normally get down on my knees because I can't get up. I don't have the strength, even in my arms, to help me up. And I was able to get up off the floor, and he wasn't home to help me. I would have, basically had to stay there until he got home in the past. And I was able to get up. And that's the thing that just helped to turn me on to go forward. Yeah. And I have, I have a problem. I had a problem. I just got my foot operated on. It was severely pronated. I was practically walking on my ankle. So you can imagine how much that throws you off balance. And the healing that's happening. I mean, Shawn, I'm not supposed to be walking barefoot without the boot, and I can walk barefoot without the boot. I mean, I'm not stupid about it. I'm careful, but I can do that. I can climb up stairs with my barefoot too. I tried that yesterday, and I'm just healing fabulously, and it's because of the diet.
Yeah. Diet certainly has a big role in healing. I saw that with my patients, and literature supports that. And it's not surprising that you're having such a good outcome, which is great for you. So now you have what's called plantigrade foot, I assume, foot that's even with the ground. And so as that, again, I would expect to see you continuing to be able to be more and more functional. Are you requiring assistive devices to walk still, or what do you?
Right. I have to walk with a walker until I see the doctor on the 26th. But I can walk around if I'm with next to the counters and such. I can walk without one.
Not having a wobbly ankle, she's a lot more stable.
Yeah, of course. You can't walk on a foot that doesn't touch the ground correctly. It's very challenging. Are your knees? So you still have varus knees, or did you ever have those?
Oh, okay. I had knee replacements back in 2016, I think it was. Okay. But just before my knee replacements, I did a 5K? A 5K.
Oh, God. Well, day before.
I walked with a walker to do it. And so this spring, I'm hoping, or summer, next year now. I mean, I'm hoping that I can do another 5K and do it on my own. That would be great.
That would be amazing. That would be really good. So right now, you're with the foot being straight, the knees are straight. Now you have a kind of a more normal gait, as good as it can be, I suppose.
Right.
Did you lose any additional weight by going onto the carnivore diet?
Actually, I haven't. I mean, I gained weight, and then I lost weight, just the weight that I gained. And then my coach told me, which is Stephen, Stephen Thomas, he told me, don't try to fast. Don't do any of that. He said, you need the protein, you need the fat to heal. And so I had been eating 3 meals a day, which was unusual for me because I was down to 2 meals, and I gained weight. But I'm not going to be upset about it. I'm looking forward to, with my activity and increasing and such. And also I've stopped coffee, which raises insulin, I'm told. And I never knew that. And I was drinking coffee all day long. So that was probably a good reason why I wasn't losing any weight, because of the insulin spikes. And then, of course, I drink cream in my coffee. So I stopped drinking coffee. I don't use cream anymore, that kind of thing. And I'm cinching up my my meals like into a tighter eating window. I don't go more than 6 hours with eating my second meal.
Do you find that So the cerebral palsy had affected you. I mean, obviously you've got these joint deformities. Probably some of that was related to cerebral palsy, I'm sure. Does it still, you still have difficulty neurologically with it, or is that improving? Or
I don't, Shawn, I don't believe it does. Now, the thing that I have to get in charge of and change my mind, my brain, is that I've been walking with holding on to somebody's arm for like 15 or 20 years now. And so I'm afraid that when I get away from counters and walls and such, that I'm going to fall. So I think I have to retrain my brain, and I don't know how that's going to happen. But what I'm hoping for is that when I see the reality that I'm walking on my, and feel the reality of walking on a flat foot, that I'll be able to be braver, and I'll be able to, walk normally and not be dependent upon somebody's arm.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you have some physical therapy scheduled for the foot once it's healed? Is that something?
Yeah, once it's healed, I'll be able to go 3 days a week, and I'll talk to her about my balance issues and that kind of thing. And I've had a good long relationship with this therapist, and so she'll be able to hook me up with retraining my brain, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be great. So you spent, I don't know, until 2016, I guess, in nursing, and I guess it was a fairly long career. All through that career, now that knowing what you know now about how nutrition impacts all these issues, were you, in retrospect, did you see where there's some problems with the healthcare system with regard to how we manage things?
Oh my goodness, Shawn. I mean, in nursing, we never learned. We didn't learn about particular diets. And the things they serve on the trays to the diabetics is awful. And all they want to do is give you medicine. That's all they want to do. And I think it's driven by the drug companies. And these poor doctors, I don't think they even know it. And when I look back, I could have been a force for good if I only had the information, but I didn't have the information. But I do now, and I tell everybody. I mean, sometimes they're probably sick of hearing it, because all I do is tell them about the carnivore diet, and at least get them hooked up with keto, and whole foods, and tell them my experience and how good I feel. I mean, I feel great, and I never knew that I felt bad. Oh, and the other thing is, and we didn't talk about this, but just before I started carnivore, I got a bone density scan, and I was diagnosed with osteopenia. And I just got another scan just a couple of months ago, and I have no osteopenia. I healed. And that's
awesome. That's amazing. And yeah, I imagine the combination of the higher quality protein, those who don't know it, our bone is about 40 to 50% protein, like collagen. And then of course, maybe some of the exercise would have an impact on that. So that's really impressive. So you said you've got several children, several grandchildren. Have they noticed the difference in grandma or mom, and have they commented? Have you been able to sort of influence that in any way? Sometimes it's tough for the family
to hear about it.
They hear about it, but my scope of influence on my kids isn't good. I mean, they see that I'm feeling better, and that's good. But I think when it's going to impact them is when I start to go down on my weight a little more, and I'm, and move better.
We raised them and trained them to be independent, and it's a downfall.
Yeah. But it'll happen. I think it'll happen.
How about friends and other folks that you work with?
Friends, absolutely. I've got one guy that comes to the house every week, and he's on the Keto Carnivore Diet. I've got another guy that I set up counseling for, and he is excited to hear about it. We just introduced them to what it means to eat fried fat and how tasty it is. We went over to their house and just had pork rinds and beef crackling and that kind of thing. And they were amazed on how good everything was. So they see it. And I have a homeopathic doctor who didn't want to hear about anything keto or carnivore, and she had type 1 diabetic children,
young children,
and she didn't want to hear about it. And now, after hearing about it, and it took a couple of years, now they're going for it. It's great.
Yeah, it's interesting. I see this. There's so many people. They're young. They're in their 20s. They're exercising, eat a lot of carbs, they're in good shape, and they sit there and they say, "Well, you're crazy." And what I know will happen with many of them is they'll get to be 40 or 45 or 50, and they'll start having pain, and then all of a sudden they'll realize that, maybe I need to do what you guys did too. So it's kind of a funny thing. And it's tough when you're trying to tell a 20-year-old who eats McDonald's and still feels good. That's a problem until they're actually faced with their own particular pain point. And so, but I mean, good for you for being out there and sharing that information and being an example for people. What about the man sitting next door to you? Is he husband? Is he eating more?
Oh. We have a neighbor across the road, and we've been telling about keto and carnivore for years. He's now lost 103 pounds. His diabetes medicine has been cut down.
Well, what scared him is he got diabetic bad.
Yeah, he became
hard fast.
And he was afraid. He was afraid of being a diabetic. And then his father, who is a terrible, brittle diabetic that lives in the same house, he has lost 40 pounds, and because he's doing keto. So I'm thrilled, and I know it's because I've shared it with him. And this is a grassroots thing. The doctors the American Medical Association is not going to turn this around. It's going to be people that have tried this and are on it and are spreading the news.
Yeah, absolutely. That is, I don't have a lot of confidence in the government or any of these particular, health agencies to reduce the treatment collective. There's too much conflict of interest there for them to wholeheartedly do anything like this. What about your husband, Naj? That's what I was trying to ask.
I want to inject something here. What she hasn't brought up yet is her CAC score. The doctor's like, "Oh, your triglycerides are high. We need to put you on a statin." Her CAC score just 2 months ago, 0.
Yeah, my triglycerides are not high. My cholesterol is 275, HDL 103, LDL 171. And my triglycerides are 44.
Yeah. That's a common, that's a very common scenario we see is people with high LDL cholesterol, very low triglycerides, very high HDL, CAC score of 0. We keep seeing that repeatedly. And so the question is, my sort of question is there a nuance here? Because the traditional people would say, well, higher LDL, most likely higher ApoB, higher risk for plaque formation, but at the same time, you're like, well, what happens in the other direction to mitigate this? Is it something that changes the vessel itself, the stickiness, the proteoglycans that are expressed on there with the diet and minimizes the ability for the vessels to actually adhere these LDL particles. And I think that it's very plausible at this point because we see what's going on here. How do you feel like, do you feel like you're continuing to get stronger and stronger? Are you still doing the exercise?
Oh, yes, I am. Now I've had to do them from a chair because of my instability on my legs yet. but that's fine. That's weightlifting. But I've been in the pool. Now, the doctor said that I couldn't go swimming yet, but I ignored him. And I went in the pool, and I've been doing leg exercises in the pool. So I am getting back to it, and I feel great.
I've got more chlorine in that water than we have in the shower.
But as far as my husband goes, he is about 90% carnivore.
Mm-hmm.
And
I always ate meat and a lot of butter, and they always wanted me to, no, eat the veggies.
And so I'm hoping that it'll be completely 100% soon.
I'm 68, and I cut and split a stack of quarter wood a day. I think I'm not doing too bad.
Good for you. That's great. That's I think that's really the test of if it's something working or not, what you can do over a lifetime. Like I said, 68, you've outlived most of the people already who've ever lived on Earth, and and it sounds like you've got quite a bit more in you. So good for you guys. Do you have any short-term goals over the next year or so, Nanci? What you mentioned a 5K, I guess without the walker is what I'm sounding like. Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna concentrate on retraining my brain and not being so fearful, because that's the most important thing right now, that I become more mobile that way. And the other thing is I want to become a coach, but I haven't felt that it was time for me to become a coach yet. I wanted to get some things under my belt that I would learn from the community. And it's nearing the time that I'm going to study to be a coach. I think it would be a good idea.
That'd be great, Nanci. And like I said, as we stand up for Revero, we're going to be looking at certain coaches, and some of them that have RN backgrounds and things like that, which would be very, very beneficial for a number of reasons.
Right.
Yeah, because we'll be discontinuing medications, and the coach will be doing it and having an RN. You're used to doing that, right? You're used to taking med orders and changing meds and stuff like that. Whereas the average person, you're like, what the heck is what is something TID, PO? They don't understand the language, and so you have to instruct them on that. You already have all that.
Yeah, I'm not on any meds except for they put me on a blood thinner because my foot's always in a boot. So, but after that, I don't take any meds.
Yeah, you're in the minority. I mean, the vast majority of Americans in your age category are on something like 4 medications. That's amazing. You're not making the pharmaceutical companies keep out of the way. But, oh well.
Yeah, the doctor wants me to go on a statin. No, he also said the red rice, something or other.
Yeah.
And what he said was, even after seeing the calcium scoring test, he said, "Well, this is preventative," and there's no reasoning with him, but he's a good guy, and I can understand it, but no.
Yeah, it's like I said, you have to be your own advocate. I think the doctors you can use for consultation purposes or whatever, but if they don't get it, they don't get it. Like I said, as we see more and more physicians are sort of figuring this stuff out. I've got actually one coming to my house today. One of our investors in our company is a physician. I'm meeting with him today. So after I get done these meetings and consults, I'll meet with him today. But what does your diet look like today? Can you describe what you eat on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, okay. So I can tell you, like yesterday, my husband did the cooking because I haven't been able to stand at the stove yet, and he made a meatball soup with egg, and
egg drop,
like an egg drop soup, and that was delicious. And then we put a dollop of butter in that,
ribeye,
and I had a ribeye steak. I love bacon. I can have bacon and eggs for one meal, and then another ribeye. So
yesterday she had a pound of bacon, a ribeye, which is 1.1 pounds, and she had the 2.5 bowls meatball soup, which was just hamburger and egg.
Yeah.
Great egg drop. What
Yeah.
good.
But like I said, I make sure that I eat in a 6-hour window. I've tightened that up a little bit. Yeah.
Well, you're definitely, that's a good decent amount of protein in food. So you're not starving. It sounds like you're enjoying the food. How is he as a cook? Does he do a pretty good job?
Yeah.
What did you say?
Asked how I was as a cook.
Oh, Andrew, he's a great cook. Yeah. Yeah. I put him to the test too, because I'm a really good cook. And so he's had to practice for this because I got operated on in May.
Yeah.
And so he's had to learn quite a bit, and he's doing a great job.
I don't like scones, never liked scones, made scones for friends that we had over, and they were good, but you don't eat scones. Scones suck.
That's an English thing, the scone. But, anyway, well, thank you, Nanci. So for somebody that just, if you had a message for anyone that's listening, what might you tell them?
Well, I would say that if you're having problems, or even if you're not, if you don't want to have problems in the future, then I would say look into this carnivore way of eating. Because as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing to go back to. Yeah.
You as a doctor and we as nurses, people come into the hospital in our setting and we know what they've eaten.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, I would say investigate it. I always send them to YouTube, and I name, Dr. Chafee. I name you. I name Dr. Berry,
mm-hmm.
and I tell them even Kelly Hogan, steak and butter gal, and I try to widen their view that way, because education is power, Shawn.
Yeah.
And I love to see people get well, and we're so sick today.
Well, that's a great message. Well, Nanci, thank you so much, and Andrew, thanks for being in the background there. But thanks a lot. We look forward to your progress. I'm looking forward to hearing how the 5K goes and continued success in everything you do. And thanks for being part of the community.
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, guys. We'll see everybody back tomorrow. You guys take care. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.